At this time of year, every day is unpredictable with the weather. Every day is unpredictable with some of the family things we have going on. And today, one of the big ones, I have my annual physical to find out if I'm qualified to ride anymore. You never know what the doctor's going to say. Now this is funny too. We just entered the bug season. And I keep this little piece of microfiber on the radar detector. You can't imagine the last time I rode the bike how many bugs were on the face shield. But it's coming up into that about a 1 month season where you got to debugify the bike after every ride. It's coming. Summer's coming. I can't wait for the riding season. And the biggest thing, I can't wait to get the final parts of this bike painted. Get it back on the road. Now I always try to gear whatever I'm doing in the winter that it comes to a nice conclusion around April or May. So I'm not tempted to rush that last month because I want to ride every day. Well, this one, because of the little accident we had, is putting me to the test. It's supposed to be a nice day to get a ride in, but again, because of my physical, right in the middle of the day. So, and it seems like that, then it kills the morning and it kills the afternoon with one stroke of the pen, but I'll still wind up getting something done. Now, one of the little things I wanted to upgrade very soon, I may have upgraded sooner than necessary here. I constantly save the bolts when I take things apart or throw things out. I always want to have the spare bolts for doing my little projects. Now, you can see I've got some of these bins overfilled, some underfilled. But what I want to do today, I have some bolts from Bolt Depot I have to go through, sort them out, and put them in their appropriate bins. Now, it's a good tip. What I would always do in the past is I'd buy whatever bolt was available from Bolt Depot. I'd always buy at least a half a dozen or so, the longest they were available, because I can always shorten them. Well, over the years, I've used these bolts with perfect reliability, and the only problem is I'm running short on certain sizes. So what I did an inventory. Oh, when I started this project, in fact, here it is. Instead of talking about it, I can show it. I replaced all of the hardware, and I found out one of the things that the bolts, I'm just using this for an example, the bolts that were holding the windshield on were only catching by about 2 threads. So I ordered a bunch of bolts a little bit longer, a little bit longer, a little bit longer, and a little bit longer. The bolts are so cheap when you order them in bulk, because what it'll do is just save me the time of having to cut the bolts for every appropriate job. And every time I take something apart, I'll put a brand new bolt in. Now sure, that's overkill, but like as an example, on the 750, every time I take it apart, I'm so glad I'm dealing with brand new bolts, not rusty old crap. And keeping all the bikes clean and neat with bolts that they aren't rounded off on the edges or stripped or in some way problematic, it just makes the work on the bike and the restorations a lot more fun. On the FZR, I replaced so much hardware already, but even the little screws that hold the fender on are brand new. But when I have to take this apart or polish it or work on it, just makes it that much more fun. Well, it's a small detail, but one well worth the time you put into it. And I'm going to definitely start looking around for a nice, they make these stackable trays for holding bolts. I've seen them in Lowe's and Home Depot. I'm going to look for something that I can really go through all my bolts and do a nice organization on them. Now I want to put a really, really important tip on video. A couple of years ago, Luciano got these in bulk from China. And they're aluminum bolts that are anodized, and I use them on several things where you don't use them to hold the forks on a bike. On the windshield they look okay. And without realizing one day, I didn't think this through, I had Loctited, put a drop of blue Loctite on these aluminum bolts. Well, what that means is you're probably going to strip this head out and have to grab it with a vice grip to get the old bolt out. And sadly, and I have this, the bolts are fine. There's no reason not to use them on things that are not held on for, you know, for structural things. Aluminum bolts look cool, they're anodized, and I've got them in several places. But the problem is, I think you should never Loctite them unless you think you're never going to take them out again, or when you do, it's very easy for you to get a vice grip plier on them. That is really a good tip. And the reason for that is, now, there's certain things you would not want to use them for. But as an example, the things that hold on the levers are usually hardened bolts. But on a thing like the cap for the reservoir for the brake fluid, this little cap here, I don't think that matters. This certainly wouldn't matter. But anytime I have even gotten Loctite near those bolts, getting them out, because it's a soft material. Now, remember, aluminum comes in a million different grades. You can bet when you get these, you know, for 2 cents a piece from China, they didn't use the highest aircraft grade of aluminum possible. This might have been a Pepsi can at one time. But it's certainly good for some things, and it keeps, and I've also seen the other thing where they sell these similar bolts, kits of bolts for $15, where there's 4 bolts and a couple of nuts. So that's just something I wanted to put that information on the video. And since that's the whole purpose of us sharing the information we share on video and trying to, by the way, I just wanted to show this, why I take this apart. I want these, because some of them are a little shorter, a little longer for the mounts on the FZR. Some of these have special nuts, some of them are extra short. A little tricky putting it back together, so I take a paper towel, the right side, the left side. Just makes it a little bit easier for me, for somebody with diminished brain power. It's time to feed the fish and time to get ready. This is going to be a very eclectic day, I can tell. So, looking over the project table, this guy is ready for clear, except today does not look like it's going to be a day to shoot clear. The wind is blowing 50 miles an hour out there. I don't know what that's all about. One of the choices we have later on in the day, if we have a gap of time, to sand the mirrors. But the big gorilla in the room is to get this part sanded. Now, if I can get that sanded sometime during the day, then I'll have basically 2 things to shoot clear on, and I'll have to wait for a really good day because the weather's been so variable lately. And I certainly, here we get to that same thing, I don't want to compromise. I don't want to take a chance. I already have a bug in here. By the way, I'll show when I get to sand this. It won't be right now, and I'll explain why in a minute. And I have a bunch of little stuff I wanted to share. So I wanted to share a couple of things that I think are important. They're important. They've helped me get a lot out of a very little in my own life here. Having being able to use time efficiently. Now, one of the things that allows me to use time efficiently is, just an example today, I have to have clean clothes on for the next hour, because it's about an hour and 10 minutes, I have to leave to go for my physical. So I can't change clothes back and forth. So what I try to do, I lay out the day, sequence the day up. Anything I can do now with, I wouldn't paint with a good shirt on. So I thought this is something we can share, and something a lot of people could benefit from, I think. Bolt Depot. I put this on video a million times already. And my obsession with having new bolts and everything clean, even the 6mm nuts, 5mm, the ones you commonly use. These are so handy to have because they're like a lock nut, especially on fairing parts. So what I decided to do, I'll be a big spender here, and I spent 20 bucks on bolts. But what I get for my 20 bucks is everything I take apart now, instead of taking a rusty old bolt that's half stripped out and corroded, these are stainless. They never ever rust. Once you polish them, they stay polished for a long time, for years. So having a nice variety of sizes, the ones for the windshield, for various things that we're going to use them on, this is going to make any project that I work on just a little bit nicer. And now, once I get my new bolt sorting thing, I'll dump all the bolts out on a table, and maybe Miles will help me. We'll sort out all the bolts. It's a big thing for me. Now, some people don't care. Some people just, I've seen people that I respect even, take a motorcycle apart and the bolt is all rusty and corroded and just put it right back. Well, I try not to do that. But anyway, these are cheap. They're from Bolt Depot. They're stainless. Except for anything that needs a grade 8 bolt, these are fine. And the best thing of all, they never ever. Now this is a box I got quite a while ago from, I didn't even open the box. I'll explain why in 1 minute. I wanted to see if the original mirrors, I bought 2 sets at the same time, the same day, actually from 2 different companies. These, I think, are the ones that mount on the fairing. Yeah, let me show this, and I'll explain what my logic was. Not that my logic is really flawless at this point in my life. But anyway, this is another set of mirrors. I already have ordered from this company. The mirrors are fine. There's only one problem with the mirrors, that, as they always are, they always have some crazy Chinese writing on the side of them, which I don't like. I don't like flat black, but what this gave me the choice of, when I put the bike together and got the first rides on it, I at least could see how these mirrors worked out. Now this one, these of course are to mount on the fairing. These, the ones we have, just a little bit nicer when they're shiny. You can see how much further they stick out. Well, not really. It's probably an inch or so, because these are mounted further out than the fairing. So what happens is, that extra inch is the inch that you're not looking at your elbow. So I do have them both. I'm going to save these. They're so inexpensive. I think these were $14. The glass is not real glass. It scratches easily, but it doesn't really matter. They're so cheap. And when you drop the bike and scratch it, I just wish they wouldn't put that lettering there. But anyway, that's another choice that we have during this restoration. We have the choice, 2 sets of mirrors, and probably what I'll do is I'll wait for a rainy day and sand these down and paint them before I even try to use them. But these worked out so good that these are now basically on the back burner. And these are the ones, when I sat on a bike and rode out to the village market, the vision was every bit as good as the GS, which to me is the gold standard. You actually can see what's behind you without straining your neck. Now these are the aftermarket mirror parts that I put on here. With this, I just put a drop of CA. I tried tape. The tape was getting all mushy from the... So I just put 1 drop of CA just to hold them while I painted them. They look like they're a lot nicer shiny than they were in Chinese flat black. But now the trick is, I want to take the Dremel tool and I want to etch the back of this. I want to clean it up. I want to roughen it. See, here's what happens with these. They're soft. The aluminum is soft. And what happens is, you can over tighten them, of course. And then what happens, the mirrors start doing that. And the way I've cured it, if you over tighten the bolts, these break. It's for sure they're going to break, because the leverage arm of the mirror is a foot high. So an easier way is to etch this surface. Just scuff it, even using rough sandpaper. I'll use a Dremel tool, and then I'm going to put in sticky back sandpaper on both sides, and I'll show that. And that is for every motorcycle. That's a great trick. It just keeps the mirrors from doing this, and then you don't have to over tighten the bolts. And another thing that annoys me about the original FZR, with the Ferrari paint job, one of the things I never was happy with the mirrors. The mirrors were out on the end of the bars, and you'd bump into things. It was hard getting it in and out of the garage, and you didn't see that good out of them. These, with the mirrors up high, they go over your shoulder. Beautiful. So this is worth doing, these little details. And this restoration project, a lot of it is about little details. So here's one before, and I just took that Dremel tool with a sanding drum, put a couple of scratches on it. But what happens, that sticky back sandpaper will make this like a vice grip. It works so well. And once those are all sanded, and they don't have to, I don't want to remove material and change the shape, but I want to get all that, the Chinese Rust-Oleum or whatever they had inside of there. I have no idea what they paint these with. But it's really 1 molecule thick. They have it down to a science. This is just an ordinary sticky back sanding disc. Nothing special about it. And I can just cut strips of it. Just a little bit thinner than the thickness. Does not have to all the way go out to the edge, of course. But I don't want it coming out the edge like a salami sandwich with the salami coming out the end. just to make it neat. We could make it a little bit thinner than that. Again, you're not going to see this, but what this works on model airplane propellers, when the propeller would constantly get loose, carbon fiber and steel, or wooden steel, or wooden aluminum. What happens is, as you crush this, when these two pieces come together, this sand in the sandpaper acts like a grit, and it just makes it so much stronger. You know, that's going to fit right in there. So here, there's really no secret to doing this. You need a fingernail, which sometimes I don't have, sometimes I do. You never know. Anytime I got to wear clean clothes in the shop, you know, I look around, I want to do stuff, and I can't do it because if I get this shirt dirty, Karen doesn't know I'm doing this. We won't tell her. When she watches the video, she's going to give me a smack in the mouth, I'm sure. So I get this placed down there. Sometimes you only have to do one side. We'll do both sides just to make sure. I do not want these mirrors coming loose. As I'm getting older and older, two things are happening at the same time. I want the bikes I ride to be more and more comfortable, and I want to be able to see what the hell's behind me. Now, I know young people, they ride around and they don't care. They don't care how comfortable they are at the end of the ride. Now, that little piece, when that's clamped to the handlebar, that is going to be so much stronger than if we didn't put that piece in. And that is a wonderful little trick. I forgot to mention one little thing. It doesn't even matter if it's not sticky back sandpaper, because we're not using the glue as such. It's that the grit that's on the sandpaper is what's going to happen. So if you did this and you didn't have any sticky back sandpaper, and you put even on one side, just put the regular sandpaper. It doesn't matter. You could put the grit facing either way. And in the worst of all worlds, when you're really looking, I mean, you're really a fanatic about it, you can take this and put two of them together so it's gritty on both sides. It'll add a little thickness. But that acts like a lock washer. That's really a good little tool when you're trying to do things like keep your mirrors from moving around. And that is a nice little upgrade you can do for basically no money and about 10 minutes of time. And boy, I just want to say again, the time I spent sanding these mirrors, yeah, that changes everything. I just like that so much better than the flat black. So the next thing I'm going to do when I get back, I have to make a decision here if I'm going to do this when I get back, or if it warms up, gets nicer out, go for a ride, it doesn't matter. Because again, the key here is I don't want to rush this. And even if I let it go another day, that day the paint will be harder. But I keep seeing this poor bug, and I wonder what the last thing he thought was. Hey, why is this so sticky? I don't know if that's funny or not. Anyway, here's the thing I had in mind. I wanted to show this. I know Turbo Steve gave me some ideas for paint jobs in the past that worked out well. This is an idea I had. I wanted to make a piece of sheet metal to go behind here that continues this stripe. And I don't know if that's going to even fit or work. I have to put the whole bike together. But it would always, of course, be a piece that I could take on and put back. The bike never overheats, so I don't think you need all this area. I think they did this more for style. But being able to see this bar in the final paint job, I think would be a nice upgrade. And I've looked at computer pictures of that, and to the point that I think maybe that'd be worth trying. But again, just an idea. Something I can think about while I'm at the doctor's office. And these doctor things, they start out being 15 minutes. You wait there for 2 hours, and then they go to lunch, and then So I don't know if I'm going to be able to work on this afternoon, but while I have clean clothes on, I can just look at that bug and wonder what the last thing he thought was. Again, while I'm waiting for Karen to get ready, I cut up another stack of, this is about, I guess, 10 sheets of 1200 sandpaper. I'll get the soapy water ready. See, that's a part of it too. When people say, oh, I don't have enough time to do this, I don't have enough time to do that, A lot of times they waste a lot of time. Like this morning I had the time I had to do these other the little things I was doing. That would be done on a day I could be sanding, painting, or writing. So getting things done when you have the time available, sequencing them up, I'll get everything ready. And if, depending what time we get back from this doctor, it makes me crazy how many doctors we've been through this winter. Karen's had 4 separate surgeries on all my medical issues, so, but we're just trying to do it efficiently and not waste time. And as I look around for I'm getting ready to leave, the last thing I've got to come up with some paint work. I got to come up with a day to work on Glenn's project. That's a day, and we also have the gas tank to work on. So anyway, we're off to the doctor. You can't imagine how much fun it is coming here once a year to, they tell me if I'm going to live or not live. They usually say just stop riding motorcycles. So I had a full physical, and they told Karen she should start looking for a younger husband. This one's got too much mileage on him. Anyway, looks like I got another year to go. The doctor told me I'm in great health for a 92-year-old guy. And just like my GS, an oldie but a goodie. And we're still going to get a ride this afternoon. Boy, it cleared up. The kids have a Little League game this afternoon, so it's going to be a short ride. I want to get back in time to go hang out with Miles. And every time I think about riding this bike, just the memories. Back when this bike was new, I was new. Now that I'm old, the bike is old too. I think the bike might be in just a little bit better shape. Anyway, we got about a half-hour window to ride. So once again, we've had a great ride. Enjoying the 1982 original owner, historically registered, and God, she's still a beautiful girl to me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed sharing a ride with us. Tomorrow we get back to working on the FZR. Thanks for watching.